Chapter 3 of Genesis. Genesis chapter 3. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God say you shall not eat from any tree in the garden?" The serpent talks. The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden. But God said, You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die." But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Why doesn't God want that? So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave some to her husband, who was there with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" I thought God was all-knowing and omnipresent everywhere. He said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself." He said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" How does God not know the answers to these questions? The man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate." Ooh, it's the woman's fault. Ooh, you should have taken the arm and a leg partner instead of. You should have taken that deal instead of exchanging it for a rib. That's a callback to the last video. "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent tricked me, and I ate." Ooh, it's the serpent's fault. By the way, no allusion to this serpent being Satan. That was thousands, certainly at least 1,000 years later, I think. Hundreds of years, for sure, later, that anybody said this was Satan. Anyway. Then the Lord God, the serpent tricked me and I ate. The Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you among all animals and among all wild creatures. Upon your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life." I will put, so the serpent now has to go on its belly. So did the serpent used to have legs? Did the serpent used to be a lizard? "I'll put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel." What the hell does that mean? To the woman he said, "I will make your pangs in childbirth exceedingly great. In pain you shall bring forth children, yet your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." And to the man he said, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree about which I commanded you." See, now, from now on, according to the Bible, men should not listen to the voice of their wife. The misogyny starts in chapter 3. "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree about which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, until you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return." The man named his wife Eve. Okay, wait, by the way, just back up here. What did God say when he told them not to eat the tree? The Lord, "You may freely eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall die." So the serpent is the one who told the truth here. God said, "On the day that you eat of it, you shall die." Now, Christians are going to say, "Oh, it's a spiritual death or whatever," but what I thought Christians took the Bible literally. What he literally says is, on the day that you eat of it, you shall die. Serpent says, nah, you won't die. You'll get the knowledge of good and evil. And then, God says, eventually you're going to return to dust. Until you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. But then I don't know how long Adam lived. We'll get to that maybe, but they were living hundreds or up to like 1,000 years, supposedly, these characters. So, how many hundreds of years did they live after the day that he said, if the day you eat of it, you shall surely die? God's a liar. The man named his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living, and the Lord God made garments of skins for the man and for his wife, and clothed them. Then the Lord God said, see, the humans have become like one of us. One of us. It's plural. More than one God. The humans have become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Ooh, that's terrible. They know good and evil. And now they might reach out their hands and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Wait. So, were they not already going to live forever? What's the point of the tree of life? I thought that death was okay, he said, on the day you eat of it, you shall die. But then he said, maybe you'll die eventually because you ate of it. But were they going to die already? Or what's the deal with that? What, the tree of life, I guess he only commanded them not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So had they first eaten from the tree of life, then they would have lived forever. And if they eat from the tree of life, he then can't make them die? He's bound by that magic? He's not all powerful? Okay, so they might reach out their hands and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent them forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which they were taken. He had to take them out of the garden, because if he didn't take them out of the garden, they might eat from the tree of life, and then he would no longer be able to make them die, I guess. He drove out the humans, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and a sword flaming and turning to guard the way to the tree of life. The cherubim, cool. What are the cherubim? There's some sort of angels. Anyway. Well, we're 3 chapters into the Bible. We've already found a lot of contradictions and a lot of different... God is a very different character already from how he's portrayed in Christianity. He doesn't seem to be all-knowing. He doesn't seem to be all-powerful. He can't... If they eat from the tree of life, then they can't die, so he has to take them out of the garden. He's a liar, because he said they would die on the day that they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So we're 3 chapters into the Bible, and already I smell bullshit. Let's see how many days we can read this for.